Welcome to Make the Grade with the Success Doctor, Stephen Green, where you'll discover actionable strategies to help your student to reach their academic goals, to excel at standardized testing, and to plan for the college admissions process painlessly. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Green.
Hey, everybody. Steve Green here. Let's get our theme music going. I apologize. I had to work right up until the start of the event tonight. I just got done working with a student, so I didn't want to shortchange them. And a little bit behind in my schedule. I apologize. But we're going to make it happen here. Education Live Thursday night. Every Thursday, 8 p.m. We got a great guest tonight, Patty Luu. You're going to really like her. You're going to like some of the really interesting discussion we're going to have. Let me just get into a couple housekeeping things really quickly. Okay. Well, I'm done. I'm going to play the theme song again because I'm feeling it today. Number one, this happens every Thursday night, Education Live, and it's going well. We're having some really excellent guests. I've got guests lined up already into December and even some into January. We're going to cover so many different topics in the education space. Tonight we got sports. Last week we had nutrition. Before that we had college admissions. We've got psychology coming up. How do you deal with IEPs and accommodations? So this is going in a lot of different directions, but the thing that's bringing it all together is about helping families, about helping parents, and about helping you to help your children to maximize their education. And that's our goal. It's always been the goal, always will be the goal of Education Thursday Live. So, hey, I want to welcome some of our listeners. Ron Shapiro, thank you, one of our great sponsors, educationbyentertainment.com. Check out Ron's company. If you want to learn and have fun learning, awesome. Just some great things. I've done some stuff with Ron. He's sort of give me a little dress rehearsal a little bit on some of it, what he does. And it's pretty cool. So Ron, thank you for sitting in. We got a nice crowd already. Appreciate it. Okay. Let's just talk briefly before we bring in Patty Luu about some of the things going on in the education space right now. About 2/3 of the students I'm working with are still on the virtual education. About 1/3 have some combination of live and hybrid. For the most part, people are struggling with virtual. Clearly, I want to say this. I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm not criticizing teachers or anybody. I'm just saying they're struggling. You know how you can get help? And one of our sponsors, the Success Community. Check it out, www.makethegrade.community. It's there to help you, parents, students, families, and it's there to help. It's about support. It's not a competition. This is about helping your kids do the best that they can. And it's going to be going on for a little bit of a while. It's early October. We may be in this situation until spring, maybe even June, in some way, shape, or form. So plan ahead. You know, I talk a lot about the 5 structures. One of them, support. And you got to know where you're going to get your support when you need it. Anyway, another thing I want to talk about very quickly is I had a person who called me and they said, listen, I'm paraphrasing, but my kid's working really hard. They're doing the best they can. They just plain can't sit there for 6 hours a day. In school, it's different. They get up, they walk around, they go to lunch, they go to study hall, they walk around the hall, blah, blah, blah. It's a good student. She is a good student. They just can't deal with the timetable of it. And that's it. So, here we go. Hi, Beth. Welcome. Great to see you. Hey, this is good. We got a lot of people in the house here already. So anyway, the parents said to me, how can I keep her motivated? I got a motivated student. They just physically can't deal that well with what's going on with the live event. And I said, look, Just break it up. Do what you have to do. If she's got to get up every 10 minutes, take a little walk around the house, fine. A lot of people have wireless earphones. They can still hear. Not everybody does. I get it. But I think the point is we're at a point right now. I'm going to go out of limit a little bit here and say we need to do what we got to do to maximize and make sure our kids are getting the best that they can. Teachers doing what they can. Parents got to do what they can. Students got to do what they can. So what I told her was, look, just let's plan breaks. You got an 80-minute class. That's a long time to sit still in a classroom, let alone online. And both, right? So we do what we got to do. Plan breaks, be active, take walks, do jumping jacks, do push-ups, whatever you got to do. But you got to keep yourself alert, and you got to just understand this is how it's going to be for a little bit. So anyway, okay, without any further ado, my guest tonight, let's bring her in here. Sorry. Hi, Patty. How are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Hang on, we're not getting your sound here. Can make sure your mic's working.
Can you hear me?
Actually, hang on. There you go. Say something. There it is.
Can
Hello,
you hear me?
Patty. How are you? Let's try it again. Patty, how are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. My bad.
Okay, good.
I had the pleasure of interviewing Patty on the Make the Grade podcast about 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
Wealth of knowledge. Podcast is out there, makethegrade.net if you want to check it out. But this is not about the podcast. This is about live, trying to bring you some value. So let's start this way. Patty Luu, Driven to Peak Consulting, that's the name of your business, right?
Yes.
Specialize in helping athletes and the athletic idea. So why don't you tell, as a way of introduction, let's just tell everybody, who are you? What are you? How are you? Why are you? Where are you?
Okay.
How'd you get into what you're doing? So let's introduce yourself to the public out here. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Patty Luu. I was born and raised in Richmond, Virginia, also known as Henrico, Virginia. How did Driven to Peak Consulting came about? It goes back to my roots of my childhood days. When I was a kid, my first exposure to sports was watching Michael Jordan of the Chicago Bulls win his 5th and 6th championships against the Utah Jazz. Ever since that moment, I fell in love with sports, and I knew from that moment on that I wanted a career related to sports. Fast forward to my teenager years, I watched Tiger Woods play golf. Seeing him play golf inspired me to try the game. Trying the game meant taking golf lessons. Well, in the process, I became aware of athletes' wants, needs, frustrations, and fears because I experienced them all. Luckily, I had that golf teacher provide me that non-judgmental and safe environment to honestly discuss my struggles. Not all traditional sports coaches do that. I was lucky enough to have one. Fast forward to, I knew that I was majoring in psychology. So therefore, since I wanted a career related to sports psych, I decided to pursue my master's related to performance and sports psychology after undergrad. And in December of 2017, my friend and master's degree classmate who already started her own performance and sports psychology business convinced me to do the same. After a year and a half on my own, I hired a business coach to clear up my messaging, to help me niche in, because for the year and a half that I was on my own, people couldn't associate Driven to Peak Consulting with a target population. So I had to niche in and have a simple way of explaining to the typical person out in society what I did for a living. And in October of 2019, we started working together. And then December of 2019, she was like, all right, Patty, woman, it's time to pick your niche. Do you want to work with entrepreneurs? Do you want to work with people in the area of exercise performance? Or do you want to work with athletes? And then I was like, if I was on my deathbed, what population can I not live without myself trying to help? And that was athletes. So in December of 2019, I focused my business on helping high school and young adult athletes overcome the mental blocks that prevent them from improving their performance and achieving their goals. I take on younger athletes on a case-by-case basis, and here we are 10 months later.
Whoa. Okay, that's a lot to digest, right?
Yes.
Let's break it down a little bit, Patty. Let's break it down a little bit. So you grew up,
Hmm.
you were inspired by professional athletes, right?
Yes.
And that motivated you to try to choose that to go into this as your career, right?
Yes.
Would you say, are there any? Let me ask you a question, and this is off the kind of off script, but
Okay. Okay.
who would be an athlete right now? I mean, you mentioned Michael Jordan, iconic athlete, right?
Yes.
Who would be an athlete today that you might draw the same motivation from? And it, just I don't know. It doesn't matter what sport,
Okay.
football,
Okay. LeBron James.
LeBron James. Okay, in basketball, right? And what is it about him that you feel is exemplary? Let me use that word. A motivator. Obviously he's a great athlete. Nobody's going to question that, whether you like him or not. The guy can play basketball. But what is it about him that you think sets a good example, or kind of brings the right energy to the table?
The fact that he's been consistently great for so long, since coming out of high school, he's been consistently great for so long that the NBA has kind of taken him for granted because he's been so consistent that
Hmm.
even his great stuff, people seem to think that it's ordinary.
Yeah, it's interesting. The people who are so talented, and it isn't just in basketball or sports, they make it look so easy, right? That people think it must be so easy to do. But meanwhile, to do what these people do and these athletes do, and it's not just men, it's women also who are at that level, it is so far beyond what someone like myself. I mean, I was actually a decent athlete growing up, but I wasn't anywhere near, professional sort of level. Let's look. The purpose of tonight is the purpose for tonight is to try to give parents and
Okay.
students, anybody who's on or listening, whenever it is, live or later, things that they can take away to help them on their personal journey. Right. The percentage of people who are going to become professional athletes is small. I don't know, whatever. For every 1,000 people that play high
Hmm.
school football, only 10, whatever, go to college football, and maybe not even one of them goes to pro. But here's the idea. So, what would you say are the benefits of learning about sports psychology and sports psychology techniques, mental skills that people can learn? And it's stressed right now because a lot of these people are
Hmm.
athletes, don't even have a season to play, right? So if you're the
Yes.
person who's usually a football player or a field hockey player, and they're used to being balling, so to speak,
Hmm.
in the
Hmm.
fall, and now they're like, what do I do? I want to go out
Hmm.
and play, and I can't, or I'm on a team, I have nobody to play. So what's still sports are still a beautiful thing, right? In the pure
Yeah.
essence, competition is a good thing. Sports is a beautiful thing. So in your mind, Patty, what's the benefit of still staying with it and being true to your mission?
Well, I would say, especially right now, sports psychology is a huge benefit because it helps keep your children mentally engaged in sports. It gives them something to help them improve as athletes. They can improve as athletes learning sports psychology skills. It keeps them involved in sports, and it also helps them use their extra time wisely that's normally preoccupied by attending games and playing in games.
So it's the process, right? Is there some
Yeah.
specific advice you would give an athlete who may be a little bit frustrated? Let's just say I don't want to put words in their mouth, right? But who's maybe upset, frustrated because they wanted to play, and they can't. But still, they can still get a benefit out of this time of year, right?
Yes.
So what would you
Well,
say to them?
okay, because right now the schools that have canceled the fall season, some of them are aiming to play in the spring. Well, what are you going to do between now and spring? Yes, you need to attend the mandatory workouts. You need to attend the mandatory practices. But besides that, what else are you going to do to improve your athletic performance? Well, like a common issue that athletes face is performing as well as they did in competition as they did in practice. They have trouble transferring that magical performance from practice to competition, while sports psychology can help you produce those same magical performances during competition as you did in practice.
And can you get into how that can actually happen? Because this is what you're basically going to do, right? This is
Yes.
your service, right? Is to get
Yes.
a child or an athlete who can do it without the pressure.
Yes.
I'm going to let you describe it, but what's the secret? I mean, without giving away the shop, right?
Yes.
What's the secret sauce? Is it a mental thing? Is it a physical thing? Is it a combination? How does it work?
I would say it's a combination of both. Like with the mental, maybe they've messed up before in a situation like that, and it's the fear of messing up again, that when they get to that situation, that they constantly focus on, I'm going to mess up again, rather than I'm going to do it correctly. Well, they also need to make practice more game-like. I mean, most likely they are already making practice game-like, but we need to increase the level of game realistic situations and practice those situations that they have trouble executing.
Is there something like a specific exercise that people could try? Or, I mean, it doesn't sound like that hard of an idea, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's just keep practicing. Like, let's just use tennis for an example.
Okay.
So somebody plays great in practice. They go into
Okay.
the, is it something you can say to somebody like, okay, when you're in a game, make sure you do this, or is it just the sheer, like focus somebody could have?
Well, I could say find a YouTube video that mimics the crowd noise. That mimics the crowd noise, that mimics the shot clock that they now have at some tournaments. Not all tournaments have them, but some major tournaments do.
Interesting. I mean, tennis, tennis.
Yes.
So basically, we're trying to simulate
Yeah.
the real situation, so to speak.
Yes.
So here's a question for you. And I'm going to just say this sort of rhetorically as a parent.
Okay.
I'm a parent. I have a kid who's an athlete. How can I help my child to improve their athletic performance? Is there something specific that I can do as a parent?
First, I think first things first. Sometimes your kids don't know that you enjoy watching them play, so make sure that you inform your kid, no matter how old, how many times you've said it before in the past. Make sure that you emphasize you enjoy watching him or her play. Ask your children, what is one thing you can do each and every day that will help you perform better whenever sports resume.
So it's just a support. You want the
Yes.
kids to know that you're giving them support, right?
Yes.
Let's shift gears a little bit because it's hard. Okay. It's 2020, October 8th.
Okay.
We are I don't think there's anybody in the United States, maybe in the whole world, who hasn't been at least partially impacted by this whole COVID thing.
Yeah.
So as an athlete and as a student, we're seeing this with virtual classrooms, sports maybe happening, maybe not. As a parent, and let's say you're concerned about how COVID is going to affect your kids' athletics.
Okay.
How do you address that? Is there, it's just something that happens? Is it something we can take advantage of? What's the advice to parents?
You can take advantage of this time and focus on the mental side of sports. Parents and athletes always focus on the physical side, related to staying game day ready. However, they neglect the mental side. Yes, they know that it exists, but they neglect the mental side of sports, which is what I specialize in helping with.
So let's explore that a little bit, Patty.
Okay.
Mental side, is it it's focus, right?
Yes.
Mental strength. But how do you develop that? Let's talk about this. Because I think, listen, I'm on the academic side, right?
Yes.
I work with kids, I help them with tests, help them with SATs, blah, blah, blah. And it's a similar thing. I get a lot of kids who, when they're working with me, I know they know the material. I ask them, I quiz them, we work, I know they got it. Oh, and then they go into a test and they don't get the same results. And it's not the same as being in an arena with sports, but in a way, there's some parallels, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's talk about maybe some of the things that break down with kids that they're unable to do in the live setting, and maybe some workarounds or some things that you might be able to help or at least suggest. Where would you go with that? Because I think this would be great information. What do you think?
Okay, it's definitely performance anxiety, the pressure of the situation, the focus, the confidence, and it's really confidence is a big thing right there. The fear of failure, the fear of letting their coaches down, the fear of letting their parents down, and you can see the same thing with the tests. It's the performance anxiety, the confidence in themselves that they can actually get the answer right when they are taking the test.
What do you think causes this? Is this? I mean, obviously, this is not that uncommon, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure at some point everybody in their life has had some sort of anxiety, or I don't know, clinically, but like just some sort of concern about how they're going to do in a more pressurized setting. But is there something you see when you deal with your clientele and the people you help that's just a common cause of why this happens? Is it just trying to please people that they love, or is it more deep rooted than that?
Well, a common theme that I see is the fear of disappointing their parents, letting their parents down. They're fearful of that, and that also plays a big role in them developing the perfectionist thing. The pressure to win, the pressure to get an athletic scholarship, the pressure to balance school and to do well in sports at the same time.
So it comes back a little bit to what we were talking about, whatever, 10 or 15 minutes ago, which is the parents showing the support for the kids. Win or lose, we're behind you, right?
Yes.
What would be day to day, right? I mean, look, sports is a grind, right? I played tennis when I was growing up. I played tennis every day, but I reached the point sometimes where I don't want to play tennis today. But what percentage of the time maybe should a person be, or an athlete be, working on their physical side of the game versus their mental side of the game? Is it, cut and dry sort of thing, or is it as needed? Should they be doing, like, I don't know, whatever, meditation or something, an hour a day, or what's your recommendation here?
I would argue that the amount of time they put in the physical, they also need to put some time in the mental. I'm not telling you to neglect the physical aspects of sports and not practice and to not attend your workouts. Do those things, but also take the time to focus on the mental aspects of sports and helping yourself and helping your own athletic performance by focusing on the mental side of sports.
But is there something specific that you can share with people that they could do this? Like, what is a way somebody could do this? And I know this is what you basically do in your in Driven to Peak, right? In your consulting. Is it a meditation sort of thing? Is it a I don't know, positive affirmation sort of thing? Is there a technique you can share without kind of giving away the whole store here?
Yes. I would say just make sure that your routine includes getting away from sports mentally. I mean, athletes know how to get away from sports physically, but sometimes they go into shock mode at how surrounded their life is in sports. When I tell them to get away from sports mentally, I mean no sports talk, no sports related activities. Do whatever you need to do that's not related to sports, that's fun and relaxing.
Is this something is this the same advice you would give, like, LeBron James? Is this the same advice you would give a professional athlete?
Yes.
Interesting. So it's a question of balance.
Yes.
You got the time you're intensely into your sport. You got the time in the same intensity, you have to kind of relax.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
students have that built in because they still got to do their school, right? They
Yeah.
still got math and
Yes.
history and whatever, English and Spanish and French and whatever else they're taking. Interesting. Okay, let me ask you a question. I'm going to look at we got some questions we thought about, but would anything you're saying, Patty, change depending on a sport a child chose to play? Like if someone was playing golf, for example, would your advice differ compared to a student who was playing a team sport, say like basketball or football or soccer?
Well, with individual sports, you don't have to deal with problems related to teammates or problems related to the locker room.
Yeah, that is,
Yes.
but do you
Yes.
also miss the camaraderie side, right?
Yes. Yes.
So you
Yes.
got both ends of the spectrum. Okay, but would your advice about sort of taking a break, as it were, be the same? Like they still got to get away from it
Yes.
and kind of clear their heads.
Yes. So that when they return, they are more into it and fresher.
What would you say? And again, this is the Make the Grade Education Live Thursday. I want to welcome everybody who's out there and listening live or in a recording. Patty Luu, Driven to Peak Consulting. So happy to have you here. We're talking sports. This isn't sports radio. We're not talking about the Eagles win or lose. We're talking about how to, as an athlete, maximize your potential. As a tutor, I so often talk about how does a student maximize their academic potential, and I'm seeing some parallels here already. Let me ask you this: what could a person expect? Let's say a person decides to engage with a sports performance or enhancement coach like yourself.
Okay.
What sort of results should they expect? Maybe not the next morning, but
Yes. It's not going to happen overnight.
no, it's a process, I'm sure. But what sort of things could they expect reasonably to attain over some period of time?
More confident children, less family drama due to not arguing with their parents over their sports performances, less pressure, less stress. Your children having a game day routine that they can rinse and repeat time and time again, which will help them perform well on the day of competition, performing well in practice and competition, and a higher chance of achieving their goals. For example, a college athletic scholarship.
So let's talk about the scholarship. Is there any predictable formula? Obviously, if a person is like the state champion in something, probably the scholarship's a lot easier to get. But for most athletes, what's your advice on seeking scholarships?
Perform at your best consistently, and you will hopefully get the results that you want. Put in the work when you're away from the competition site so that when you enter competition, you are ready to go.
Is there anything specific you could counsel people on? Like, I don't know, building relationships with coaches or things like that? Is there some technique that might, whoops, sorry, my watch is talking. Is there some technique that you might be able to share with parents or athletes here who might help them?
Yes. You can't control the results. You can influence it. You can't control the outcome when it comes to competition. You can influence it. What you can control is your preparation, your effort, and the time you put into practice.
It's like the old saying, some people, you can't outwork some people. They get up early, they get in early, they're out late. Are there any maybe case studies or examples of student athletes or that you've worked with that you want to talk about or you want to share?
Yes. Yes, I'm currently working with a 10-year-old basketball player. Yes, and
Probably taller than me. I'm
Yes,
5'7".
yes.
I'm full grown.
Yes.
He's probably 6'2"
Yes,
already. Go ahead. Tell me about the 10. Can he
yes.
dunk? The 10-year-old dunk?
Yes.
Yeah,
Before we
great.
started working
I can't even
together,
touch the rim. Go ahead. Sorry.
yes.
Tell
Before
us about the 10-year-old.
Before we started working together, he didn't really enjoy practicing. I mean, he loves the game, basketball. He loves the game. However, he didn't really enjoy practicing and he wasn't having fun with it. Practice was more like a chore. He dragged it even though he loved the game. And then after we started working together, like after the third session, something clicked. He really enjoyed practicing and he was having fun. He told me the following week.
What do you think made that? This is just a mental thing, right? What
Mhm.
do you think caused that change?
Well, I got him to use the M- the video game as an education tool, the NBA 2K game. I was like, let's use the video game to help you. Let's play NBA 2K more. Let's not play Fortnite as much. Can you at least spend at least 1 week try playing NBA 2K more and see what happens? And then when he was able to replicate some of the moves that he did in the game in real life basketball, he found it fun and enjoyable.
So the value of watching the game was to see examples of,
Mhm.
I don't know what the word is, basketball move or a drive or whatever
Mhm.
that players were doing, and now this player is going to try to emulate.
Yes.
Interesting. Wow. Hey, again, Education Live Thursday. We are here every Thursday night, 8 p.m. A variety of topics, all about education. All about education. And tune in, check in. You can always watch the replay in the resource community, WWM Make the Grade. Actually, I'll put it in here so you can see it, makethegrade.education. So if you're watching live, you already know that, but if you aren't, you might not. Patty, what would you say to a person? I'll tell you my own story. I
Okay.
grew up. I was a good athlete. I wasn't, I knew I wasn't going to win Wimbledon.
Okay.
But, I reached a point where I said, I kind of got as good as I've gotten. I felt like the amount of work I would have had to do to get significantly better wasn't worth the work it would have taken to get there. Because I basically had reached, my own personal athletic peak. So look, athletics is a grind. You could play the same sport 15 years, right? 20, 30 years. What would you say to motivate a student who kind of hits a plateau? Maybe they're working hard,
Mhm.
they're putting in the effort, they're doing whatever they got to do, and they haven't made a breakthrough. How do you keep them motivated? Because I think this would also apply to a lot of other things. But what's your advice here?
Well, plateaus are part of the process of
Mm-hmm.
getting better. And sometimes when you hit that plateau, your plateau might not have been the previous plateau because you might have improved and you might not have even realized it, where your plateau that you hit is actually a high level plateau. And a lot of people would do anything to be at your plateau level.
But how do you keep somebody motivated? If they're like, you know what, I'm only gotten so good.
Mhm.
I'm not going to get any better. How do you, as a sports coach, counselor, you got to kind of kick these people in the
Yes.
butt a little bit, right? Or
Yes.
at least keep them
Set
moving
new goals.
forward. Is there some way you could share that you can do that?
Yes, I would help them set new goals. When they hit a plateau, sometimes it's related to them um, basically accomplishing the goals that they have set out for themselves. They need new goals to get themselves motivated again.
Mm-hmm.
Other times they hit a plateau, it's because they don't get enough rest and relaxation mentally and physically away from the game.
How about, I only got a few more questions here. We're going to wrap up pretty soon. But
Okay.
in sports and in life, I suppose, there's always a peak moment, right? Like the
Yes.
state championship or a big
Yes.
tournament. How would you counsel an athlete to try to build up to that peak moment? Like, you got the regular season, right? And the
Okay.
games
Yes.
are obviously not unimportant, but the playoffs are more important, right?
Yes.
And then you make it through the playoffs. Now you got the, I don't know, whatever, county championship and regional championship. So, it's going to the stakes get higher and higher, right? So how do you, is there a different preparation or a different mental message you want people to have when you have a higher stakes game versus maybe a kind of run in the mill, a little more mundane kind of competition?
Well, when they were winning to get to the peak, peak game, what were they focused on? Before the peak game, I would remind them that to focus on the things that they got them there. Don't shift your focus to like put on the superhero cape, which
So
is
basically do what you did to get to where you are.
yes. Yes, keep doing those things because it's working. Don't shift your focus when it is working. Because sometimes athletes they from the first quarter to the third quarter they have one mindset, and then the fourth quarter they shift their mindset. They want to be that superhero that wins the game for their team.
Well,
And then they put
right.
so much pressure on themselves to win the game that they mess up by not paying attention to the little things.
Well, I think, look, there certainly is a certain amount of ego in sports, right? Like a very shy, timid, reticent person is probably not going to be a great athlete in a public setting because there has to be a certain amount of outgoing, extrovert, really, like LeBron, the Michael Jordans of the world, they loved being in front of crowds. They love the cheering and they love the accolades and the admiration of the crowd. So there's an ego piece to this as well, right?
Yes.
Because winning obviously feels good, competition feels good. I think human beings are naturally competitive species, right? So I don't think we can completely separate out just the idea of wanting to win. Just the drive to want to be as good as you can. Listen, I thought this was great. I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything you want to tell people? Let's tell people how to get a hold of you. What's your website? Do you want to share your email? Go for it.
Yes, my website, www.driventopeakconsulting.com. My email, Patty Luu at driventopeakconsulting.com. All my social media accounts are Driven to Peak Consulting as well.
That's I love the branding. Very consistent. You couldn't have got a shorter name. DTPC or so Driven to Peak Consulting. That's like 400 letters there. But hey.
Yes.
So listen, if you want to reach out to Patty, please do. Do you have anything you got coming up or an event or something you want to plug?
Yes. On November 9th, I will be launching a free online challenge, 5-day online challenge, how to stay game day ready. This will be especially good for high school athletes and anyone aiming for a college scholarship who haven't had exposure to sports psychology before and want to try sports psychology. You get 5 consecutive days of free training with me on how to stay game day ready.
Now, when is this?
It starts on November 9th.
November 9th. And how would somebody register for this? They would go to driventopeakconsulting.com.
Yes.
Beautiful. Well, listen, if you have questions, all you got to do is comment. We will see them. You see them flashing something. Look at this. Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Ron Shapiro. Meg Campbell, is that a friend of yours?
Yes, yes.
You want to say hi to Meg?
Hi, Meg.
Make her famous. There's 4,000 people watching this right now.
Really?
Yeah, well, I don't want you to get nervous. I kept the number.
I had no idea.
I'm just saying. I didn't want you to get nervous, right? We got to, yeah. But, all right, listen. Education Live Thursday. Patty Luu, driventopeakconsulting.com. Next week, really good guest. Again, I mean, I think they're all good. They all got their own strengths. Carly Myers. Carly has a company called Stress Less Company. Patty, you should tune in this for. I think it can help you too. And she'll help, I think you can work together, actually. Okay. She teaches people how to just reduce their stress, how to cope with just the anxieties of the world. She's got a great personal story. But she's really just got some really good technique.
Okay.
We're here every week. The week after that, let me see who's on the 22nd. Honestly, I don't remember. I probably should have. Apologies. I know. Samantha Freeman. Yeah, expert in executive functioning. So there's a lot of people coming on here that are really solid. So join in, tune in. Hopefully you can all see it live. If you want to make comments, just hit into the comments and we'll see them here. We can do it. Patty, I'm going to give you the last word here. Anything you want to just say to the adoring public out there?
Yes. The difference between me and a sports psychologist is a sports psychologist helps individuals with mental health and performance issues. I only focus on performance issues.
Got it. Okay. So thank you for that differentiation. I want to thank everybody that tuned in. SPED Homeschool, great to see you. And Ron, Beth, Meg, your fan club there, Patty, Steve Green, makethegrade.net. It's all scrolling across the bottom here. I put the last one up here. So let's wrap it up. Patty, again, thank you very much. Check her out, driventopeakconsulting.com. You want to get a hold of me, makethegrade.net. This and all Education Thursday Lives are sponsored by the Success Community. This is your one place to get support academically. Doesn't matter what grade you're in, doesn't matter what class you're taking. It's all about actions students, parents can take to help their children with their education. www.makethegrade.community, the Success Community. So we're going to be back at you next week. Check us out on the social media. Patty, last thing, you got a Facebook page or something you want to tell everybody about?
Yes, my Facebook page is Driven to Peak Consulting. I also have a Facebook group for parents, for athletes, for coaches. It's called Peak Performance Athletes.
Awesome. You know what you need to do? Come into the community, post that in there. Let's get some engagement, get some questions, and we'll roll from there. We're going to see you next week. We are up against our time, but I appreciate everybody's interest. Let me get the first of all, big hand for Patty.
Thanks.
Yeah, how about that? Hey, the fan. That's the 4,000 fans out there cheering for you. And you did a great, listen, you got a great service because there's so many people that need what you have. I'm going to start our theme music here, and we're going to roll it out. So for the last time, Education Live Thursday, Steve Green, my guest Patty Luu. Thank you, Patty. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Make the Grade with the Success Doctor, Stephen Green. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe. For more resources and support, please visit makethegrade.net.